Just like any other addict, or whether it's drugs, alcohol, porn, eating, whatever it is, it's insidious, and that it creeps into someone's life, and they keep thinking, oh, I can handle this. But it became my crutch.
Hey, babe. Welcome to Big Girl Thoughts. Real women, real talk, real faith. I'm Ashley, and this is our space to connect, laugh, and dive into life's beautiful, messy parts. Every Big Girl Thoughts are worth celebrating. Grab your coffee or a glass of wine, get comfy, and let's journey together, one real, raw, and remarkable conversation at a time. Hey guys, welcome back to Big Girl Thoughts. Today is a super special episode. I have a extremely amazing special guest, so special that I married him. I have my husband on. Hey, babe.
Hi, honey.
When God put this podcast on my heart, I knew that you needed to come on and share some of your big boy thoughts. You like how I did that?
Yeah.
Because we have just a amazing, crazy life full of stories that probably a lot of people can relate to. But one in particular is your sobriety. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing that. It's a sensitive but beautiful story, full of grit and grace and just God's kind of redemption for you. But before we get into that, I think it would be cool to talk a little bit about where we met. Good old Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. You left Iowa. I left Arizona. We didn't know each other, and we went to do the dream of
Hollywood.
acting. So I had graduated from Loyola Marymount University, and then I met you a year or two years after
You were
I
turning 23.
Yeah. So you want to talk a little bit about us not knowing each other and sort of your life in LA?
Yeah. Before I jump into it,
Yeah.
I just want to congratulate you on this podcast. I think it's super great. I think that a lot of people are going to be refreshed, and I think that you've got a way of really digging in on subjects that might be uncomfortable for people to share, and that hopefully, the Lord uses this to just bless people and for them to get some clarity,
I appreciate that. I feel like all of our calling, everyone's calling should be to share their mess with someone, right? Because if we don't do that, I really do believe we're missing it, so that we can help somebody else. So with that said, let's talk about good old Los Angeles.
Yeah, so I grew up as an actor in Iowa, and I thought that would be the epitome of everything if I could just get to Hollywood and make it in Hollywood, as everybody who goes to Hollywood thinks. And I found out real quick that it was going to be real hard. I didn't come from money, came from abject poverty. And so when I hit Hollywood, it was quite the difference between the haves and the have-nots and the people that were connected, and I had to claw my way up the ladder and into the union, and, so I got into SAG and AFTRA, and so I got work. I was a working actor, but I soon realized that, I was idolizing this industry. And the whole thought of being an actor, being seen on the big screen, and I had to confess. I literally dropped to my knees one night and just confessed to the Lord. I think I love acting more than you. I mean, it was bad, and I asked Him to take it from me. And it was during that process of really going through my identity and who am I? If I'm not going to be an actor, who am I? And I grew up without a father in my home.
Yep.
And I think it was probably because of his abandonment of the family. I was 4. I was really angry. I was just really angry. I loved my dad. I was a daddy's boy.
Yeah.
And I took to alcohol And of course, like any other addict or whether it's drugs, alcohol, porn, eating, whatever it is, it's insidious, and that it creeps into someone's life, and they keep thinking, oh, I can handle this. But it became my crutch, through trying to discover, who am I if I'm not an actor, right? In Los Angeles. And so, it was very hard for me, but I realized I've got a problem, but I couldn't break the problem.
Yeah, I too tried to trace that dream. I did not get in quite with SAG just yet. I was sort of just about to go get an agent, and I was right there. And I will never forget, I went to I told, you know the story, but I pulled up to an audition, and it was a guy's apartment. And that killed me. It was, I was watching these women walking up these little stairs, with their little mini skirts on, and I was like, I can't do this. I'm not strong enough. Like, there's nothing that will ever make me do something that I don't want to do. Compromise my body, my values, anything for this.
Yeah.
For this, and I believe it was a big car commercial. It would have been huge, right? And that's what we do as actors, is we go, this is it. This is the one that's going to put me on the map.
Yeah.
And to your point, I mean the same thing. I wanted it so bad, and I didn't want anything else in life. And that's a scary deal.
Well, that's an idol, is what it really is.
Yep.
And it's hard to confess that, and to say the words that you've got an idol in your life. But, acting was an idol, and I confess that, drinking was essentially an idol.
Right.
I put that above everything else at the time. And I'm coming up on 24 years sober. But at the time that we got together, you go through life hiding this deficiency or this defectiveness, this secret, look, many of us have a secret. Many of us have a lot of secrets.
Right.
Most of us have an inadequacy that we know we wouldn't want to talk about or share with the world because we're embarrassed of it. And this was one of mine, and it was hard. I grew up, in a Christian family, very poor. We didn't have running water and often didn't have food. And I was angry about that.
Yeah.
But it made me feel less than. I felt that in some way, shape, or form, I was not as good as, those families maybe that have a normal life with all of the accoutrements and plenty of food and water and whatever else. And so I always was sort of fighting against the system. I thought it was me against the world, and I sort of acted that out in lots of ways. I was always in fights. I got in a lot of trouble in college, was in jail plenty of times, mostly because of my alcoholism in college. And I'm not proud of that, but I sort of developed this tough exterior, this turtle shell, right? This me against the world, lone wolf mentality.
Yeah.
And, I was almost proud of it, actually. It was an escape. It was to protect me from the judgment of others. But I think it was really rooted in misplaced identity, right? That I didn't believe that God loved me in a way that he would forgive me and accept me and be the father that I never had in my earthly father. And so I drank, and boy, did I drink. And I owned it, and I would often have, my hand on a fifth of Jack Daniels in my little apartment alone.
Yeah.
And so when we met, I had left pharmaceutical sales and acting, and I had become a full-time personal trainer. Here I am trying to promote health and fitness, drinking every single night.
Right.
And it came up. I think that my clients could smell it on me in the morning, and it was a source of additional embarrassment. And it's like anything else. It's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when. For an alcoholic or any other addict. It's just a matter of when that's going to catch up with you. And you were, unfortunately, front and center when it really crashed for me.
What was your rock bottom moment that made you, I talk about this in episodes. We have to get to that enough is enough. I'm done with fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
What was that pivotal moment in your life that you were like, I may die, like, if I continue? Because I we can talk about whatever story you want, but you've shared with me like you thought, I mean, you to this day, I mean, we could all probably say like, how am I alive?
Oh yeah.
I mean, the parties and the things that we went to and the things that we did. What was that pivotal moment for you?
Well, I had done everything, said everything. I had tried everything. I went full tilt.
So not just alcohol.
Oh, full on drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And, the ragers, it wasn't just experimenting, it was getting really good at all of them. Mm-hmm. Whether it's, doing lines of cocaine at every party you go to or ecstasy at a rager or whatever else. And it was just this pushing yourself to this place. And so I had a series of impactful moments. I don't know that I can say there was only one rock bottom. But when it stops working, whatever the it in your life is, that could be food, that could be porn, that could be drugs, that could be alcohol, that could be a lot of things that you're addicted. Work, it could be work, right? But when it stops working and it was starting to stop working. I remember I had a little apartment over a family's house. It's like 400 square feet in Los Angeles, one of those,
For $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
And, my mom is a devout believer, and she tried her best as a single mom to raise me right. But I was just so angry. I was so angry at the world, and I was sure that God didn't love me because I was, grew up in such abject poverty. I had nothing, not even food sometimes. And so I was just pissed. But I remember when I realized it was not working for me anymore. I had a fifth of Jack Daniels in my one hand and a Bible in my other. And I was all alone, and I was weeping, and I was reading the Word, and I was in this place of, I know what's right. I know, at least I was introduced to the Lord, and I knew that I wanted to get back, but I was physically dependent. Like, shakes in the morning, like can't skip a night, like, I was addicted.
Yeah.
Physically addicted to alcohol. And I remember just praying, is there a way you can just take this from me, Lord?
Yeah.
Can you just like snap your fingers and it's just gone without me having to like unwind myself or go through this probably disgusting process of getting sober? I had no idea what that was like. I was, what was it, 28 or so? And I've been drinking since 15, 15 years old. And so that was a rock bottom. I thought to myself as I stared, it was an evening, and I was stared at the ocean from my window, and I thought to myself, I've done everything that, unruly guys want to do.
Yeah.
The sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I had gone full tilt, and there was no enjoyment. Still a major hole in my life. Like, what am I going to do? Go get drunk again? What am I going to do? Try another drug? Like, there's no thrill. There's nothing else I can do. And so you just stand at the edge of the abyss and think to yourself, well, then what?
Right.
It's either death, and, as someone who was brought up as a Christian, even though I had sort of backslidden and abandoned my faith, I was pretty scared of that.
Yeah.
Dying without, making amends of what I've done and asking for forgiveness. And so I just dropped to my knees and said, help me, send me a friend, send me somebody. And a buddy of mine, Pat Marlowe, he flew down I think it was within a couple of weeks, I mentioned something to him, and he flew down from the state of Washington, and he took me to my first AA meeting, and I was so embarrassed. I was so pissed, and I was so embarrassed, and I was so ashamed. Like, I'm like one of those. I got to say, hi, my name's Shawn. I'm an alcoholic. I'm so embarrassed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's somebody else, but it wasn't. It was me.
Were you ready?
I thought I was ready. I wanted to be ready, but I wasn't ready for the, withdrawals. I wasn't ready for the acknowledgement of physical, mental, emotional dependency, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have, the Lord wasn't my rock enough to really, truly lean on him.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't have any Christian friends around me. And so, we met at a gym, and I had abandoned my 6-figure job of being in pharmaceutical sales, and I was just sort of disgusted with myself. And so I went into personal training. It was almost a way to hide. I was really good at fitness at the time. And even there I couldn't hide. Julie Lawson and Pete Stiefel took me aside, and they said, "You've got a problem with alcohol. We notice every time you come to the gym." And so I'm very embarrassed about that. But I met you there.
I was going to say there was this little sales girl downstairs at this health club in LA. And in LA, the health clubs, most of them are like, this was like a mini version of like the big sports club LA. So it was like really upscale, beautiful. Yeah, so I was downstairs selling memberships, and there was this like hot trainer upstairs. And remember I called, I accidentally, oh God, I called you Nick. I was like, "Hey Nick," and you're all, "I'm Shawn. That's the other tan guy."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh crap, I really screwed
I
that
had
up."
just had one of those moments. I had looked myself in the mirror, and I literally gave myself a talking to almost maybe a couple of weeks before that. "Shawn, you're dating all of the wrong women. You got to stop dating these Hollywood bimbos." And so I had made a deal with myself: no dating for a minimum of 3 months, preferably 6 months. Like, get your act together.
Sure.
Get sober. Just get it together, Shawn. I was towards the end of my 20s, and so I felt like, this is ridiculous. I've got to get my life together. And I met you, and you were funny and charming and just, extremely social. And I was social. I'm an extrovert, but I never met someone who was more of an extrovert than I. And so, I was super attracted to you, and we went out a few times, but invariably, an alcoholic has a hard time disguising their alcoholism.
Yeah.
It just takes one evening where they have just one too many.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 too many. And a lot of people don't realize it's not. So if you've got a loved one in your life that drinks, as I did, it's not like you've got that same personality, which just is a little bit tipsy. No, it's a Jekyll and Hyde. There's somebody else. That, we alcoholics, we do things, we say things that we would never do when we were sober.
Yeah.
We're literally a different person. In my case, I was often 180 degrees a different person. I mean, bar fights were my thing. Like, let's go get in a bar fight.
Yeah.
And so, that I wasn't proud of any time that you saw me, wasted and just super sloppy drunk. And, the longer we dated, the more, unfortunately, you had to see.
I had seen a handful of times. And then I think it was a small handful, because I grew up with a mom who was smashed every weekend.
Yeah.
Responsible Monday through Friday, world's best, greatest educator, greatest teacher ever. Just everyone knew her in the district. She was just amazing, but smashed every Friday and Saturday night, depending on, if Monday was a holiday. So here I am, right? I came from that, and now I'm seeing just glimpses. I I didn't get to see a lot of the ugly, but I do remember, and I think this is a pivotal part of your sobriety, is you were wasted, and I basically told you the next day, I'm out. I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
Like, just like, I'm done.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you know, unfortunately, had to see in or got to see into a place where, you know, I wasn't controlling it. And in a new relationship, you know, even as an alcoholic, I wanted to control that because, you know, I wanted to look good to you and be perceived in a decent way.
Yeah.
But, you know, when in alcoholism, if you're controlling it, you're not really having any fun. And if you're having fun or you're enjoying it, then you're not controlling it.
Yeah.
And both are bad, essentially. And so it's just a matter of time before you're slipping up, even in front of someone that you're looking to look responsible in front of. And I remember the next day when you said that to me, it was as much about what you said as how you looked. And what I noticed was that sparkle of, you know, hey, I really like this guy. He's cute. I think that we have a lot of fun together had gone from your eye. And I noticed that sort of darkness and the way that you looked at me, I thought, wow, this is screwing up the one good thing God gave you. You know, I had prayed for someone in my life and he gave me you, and I was blown up. And I promised at that next day that I won't lose you to liquid.
That's right.
I'm not going to lose you to liquid. That's ridiculous. That's just dumb. And it was enough of an anchor for me to want to fight for something. Prior to you, really, I didn't have anything to fight for. I didn't think a whole lot of myself, right? So I really wasn't fighting for myself, but I was embarrassed and ashamed. And because of how I felt about who I was, I drank. Yeah. And so, you know, you were the first thing to come along that I thought that's enough to anchor myself in sobriety to fight for. And, you know, looking back, I can say in a nice, clean, smooth way, I never had another drink after that decision, which is true. But that would do a disservice to the story of the first year of sobriety, which was rough.
Yeah, I remember calling our friends, and I remember saying on your behalf, like, we're out. We're not going to meet you at the bars. We're not going to parties. We're out. We are going to get healthy. I, you know, I guess you guys say in AA, like, I'm a normie, right?
Yeah.
So here's this like normie, you know, that I don't have a problem, you know, with alcohol. I can have one or I can have two or whatever. But I gave it up. I gave up, you know, wine and whatever, you know, I wanted to drink for, gosh, year maybe.
Yeah.
And helped you. And that's a hard thing. That was all God too. Because usually if you've come from a home with alcoholism and then you know, meet someone and you're like, I mean, I think this is the one, you know, I don't know, maybe it's not this, but I would think that usually people are like, nope, not even going to go there.
Yeah.
But your determination and the fact that you did your vow of, I'm not going to lose you to liquid, like, you're now 24 years sober. You didn't even pick up a drop, and it was hard.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that year of getting sober. I mean, what did that look like for you? What were you going through? What were your thoughts? Did you probably felt odd? Did you feel odd?
Well, I mean, you know, we all tell ourselves stories, some of which we believe, some of which we anchor our entire life on. And this one of the stories that I had told myself was that I'm not funny, or socially enjoyable without alcohol. That's a story that I had told myself. I'm a pretty serious person. People have even said I'm intensely serious. And you know, this alcoholism has transferred to other things, right? I can be a workaholic, you know, I can get into something. I'm a creature of habit, and I get into something and I just do that thing, to the nth degree.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I thought, this is going to, remove the one aspect that even makes me fun to be around. So now I'm going to be this insufferable bore. I'm going to be this, intensely serious all the time. Who wants to be around that? Like,
Yeah.
I've got to have a few cocktails, even to tell a few jokes and to be the funny guy.
Right.
Except for, the guy in my head who was the funny guy wasn't really a funny guy at all. He was the obnoxious guy on the tables and, knocking things over and starting fights, and I thought everybody was having a good time and everybody was really just done with Shawn drinking.
Yeah.
And so, but in my mind, I convinced myself that, what kind of a social life would I have without, getting lubed up with a little alcohol? And so it was rough. It was having to sort of just get in the trenches and do the work. Went to a lot of AA meetings, tried to start new relationships with the guys that I met there.
Yeah.
And, getting sober in Los Angeles is quite interesting. Because you see a lot of actors.
Yeah, I was about to say,
some A-listers.
I remember dropping you off to an AA meeting and I was like,
Matt Perry.
Yep. I was like, is that Anthony Hopkins?
Anthony Hopkins at the Santa Monica meeting.
And can I just say, and this is like, again, like no judgment, but like I pull up, I let you out of the car, I look, and I mean, these guys are like smoking,
drinking cups of coffee,
and drinking coffee, like they're like a fiend,
Yeah.
like, and I was just like, wow, I was like, okay, bye, I'll see you in an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to jump in,
Yeah.
because in AA it's all about protecting people's anonymity, and just for the record, both Matthew Perry and Anthony Hopkins came out, told the world that they are a recovering alcoholic. And so I only say that because, out of respect for them. But, it was different. It was something at least to tether myself to. But the first year was all about a complete sea change, 180-degree turn to try to rebuild yourself in this, difficult trench. In the first month or two, there's this phrase in AA, it's, one day at a time. For me, it wasn't. It started out 5 minutes at a time and then 1 hour at a time. And then if I can just make it to lunch, and then if I can just make it to dinner, and, it was smaller chunks. And, I can imagine, again, I don't know, I've not been, a food addict or porn addict or any other sort of addict, but I can imagine it's that way too, that we've got an identity crisis and we make something, whether it's a substance or habit, something else becomes just too much of our life. And to peel ourselves away feels like you're peeling a part of the onion, so to speak, that's like permanently attached to you, and it hurts to remove it. But that's what the first year was a lot with me. But, to your point, I had you, and it was very hard. It was horribly hard.
Yeah.
But at least I had someone who was willing to be there and not drink with me. And so what a gift from God our relationship was. It didn't make it easy. I think that those pressures and uncomfortable truths about who I was, and therefore who we were together, and how you were having to almost care for me. That's not the way you want to start a relationship.
Yeah, I think a support system is key, right? Community. Your sponsor that you just like randomly met at a meeting happened to be, this is so cool, happened to be a diamond dealer. And made my wedding ring. Yeah.
He was my sponsor.
Like, that is...
I didn't know that at the time.
God, I don't know.
Yeah. I was this, struggling personal trainer. Yeah. And he let me pay off the ring over about a year's time. And I got the nerve up to ask you. And thank God you said yes after about a 30-second delay. But
I was in shock. Yeah.
But, and every year since then, it gets a little bit easier, mostly because I gravitate more and more towards the Lord. Now, look, I'm quite the stubborn guy. Was in the past. I don't want to own that, but
you are.
yeah, in the past.
Yeah.
And so it's taken me a while really to warm up to,
Yeah.
that God really loves me and forgives me. I'm one of those that wants to just sort of, critique myself to the hilt.
Sure.
I'm way too hard on myself in a way that certainly God doesn't want. And I was so isolated, as a lot of men are. Let's be honest, guys are like that. But I was so isolated that, even when we started going to the church that we're going to now, I didn't care to make a friend. I didn't care to go to lunch with men. I didn't care to be at a men's, leave me alone. No, leave me alone. And I sat in the back of the church with my arms folded, decent music, decent preaching, but I still had these parts of myself that were just so rock solid in a bad way.
Yeah.
Just impervious to the Lord melting. And there were guys like John Fanning and others that, tried to chisel that turtle shell away, and I told them to piss off. I said,
you did.
I said, get lost, John. I don't want your freedom, and I don't want your friendship. And so don't call me, and I've been a prickly SOB in the past.
Yeah.
And again, all of that I think comes from identity, knowing who and what you are in Christ Jesus. And I tell you, I've never been that perfect Christian. On the contrary, I've always been the outsider. I've always been the rebel. I've always been the guy that's a little rough around the edges. And only as of recently, in the last couple of years, I'm embarrassed to say at 55, in the last couple of years, the Lord has been able to use that sort of rough way about me to be attractive to other guys that are also rough or come from a place of being rough.
Yeah.
They come from addiction, or they come from mistakes that they just don't believe that a loving God would ever forgive. And I can lead a freedom group, and I can talk to guys over lunch. Yes, I do go to lunch with guys now, and I do want to have relationships, and I do want to be involved in men's lives.
Yeah, that's awesome, babe.
But yeah, it's been embarrassingly slow for me to accept that the Lord has great things in store for me.
What's the root of you kind of already had said that I guess the root would be that the enemy has now or before talked you into the abandonment issue. You felt basically unseen and unloved. So you went and tried things that you thought could fill it. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think, you've heard the phrase daddy issues. I think a lot of trauma comes from daddy issues. And my dad abandoned us at 4. I mean, he was still around. We would see him, every month or two, and then for a while we saw him every other weekend, and so on again, off again. But he just was not an integral part of my life.
Yeah.
And he certainly didn't speak into my life to form my moral code or my identity.
Yeah.
That I'm loved by a good father, and I'm supported by a good father, and in the same way that he's a good father, that my heavenly Father is there for me. I didn't have that narrative, and so in the vacuum of nothing as a narrative, I made up my own narrative at 5 and 6 and 10, which was an immature narrative that there must be a reason. There's a reason for everything, right?
Right.
And so we don't have a toilet, and we don't have running water, and we don't have food because we're defective, or we're bad people, or God doesn't like us for some reason.
I'm unlovable.
I'm unlovable.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what the enemy would have wanted me to feel. Now, we were just talking the other day that there were such positives that came out of it.
Right.
The Lord, in Scripture, it just says that, that He'll use things, anything, even things that we consider bad, to our good.
Right. We have to have that perspective shift.
And
yeah.
and it came way too late in life for me.
Yeah.
But without such lack, I wouldn't have hustled at the age of 12 to have 3 jobs and become an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Of which I've got 3 companies today. And the Lord has blessed me financially because of my entrepreneurism. And so that was really the genesis of a blessing in my life. That was the catalyst that turned me into the man I am as an entrepreneur. Also, we didn't have any television or radio or sources of, external programming, as it were, right? And so I became a reader, and I'm an avid reader today. And so I became a critical thinker without outside stimuli programming me into the mainstream way of thinking.
Yeah.
And I think that both those two things, the entrepreneurism and the ability to just, grow a brain that's a critical thinking brain, has helped me.
Yeah, it really has.
In my view. And so it's really all about perspective. Sometimes things aren't done to you, they're done for you.
Yeah. Yeah, we talk about that a lot.
And I think that has shifted a lot in my life. And so I'm an extremely appreciative guy now, even for my upbringing as a child. Whereas prior to, the last 5 to 6 years, I thought it was something that was done to me. And now I believe the Lord has done that for me so that I can be, I've got a story now.
Yeah.
Not that I would have wanted it to be this way.
Right.
But yeah,
we never do.
It's so cliche to say that our test can become our testimony, but it really has. It has for me. And so I thank the Lord. I run on a little bit too much. I lecture my kids too much. And I probably talk too much in my men's freedom group, but the Lord's given me a lot to say about my test in life.
If there's a listener listening that is struggling with sobriety of any kind, right, or just addiction maybe, what could you kind of give them that could maybe help? I mean, just what would you say?
There's so many things. It's hard to just choose, 1 or 2 things. Yeah. But I would say, 2 things. I think you have to burn your boats. You have to abandon all retreat. You have to dig in as if this is the last battle, because it is. And if you've got a problem, fill in the blank with whatever your addiction is. Again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And when that addiction pokes its head at the worst time, on your anniversary or on your child's birthday or right in front of your child's social group or in front of a church member, it's just a matter of time. And isn't that the deceit of the enemy, right? To give you a bite of that sweet apple, but embarrass the crap out of you.
The exposure.
Right. And so number 1, I would say, dig in as if it's the last thing that you have to fight for, because I think it's that important. And then the second thing, at the same time, not one before the other, but both at the same time, you have to make peace with the Lord that He loves you. And that He cares for you and that He wants good things for you. You're going to have to get into a place of believing that.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do the work. And whatever you need to do, whether it's go see a therapist, join a men's freedom group, get a buddy or someone that can speak into your life so that you believe that. Because, what's the saying that, healed people heal people, or hurt people hurt people.
That's right.
You need to be a person that accepts that healing. You need to be a person that accepts God's love in your life, because it's only from that place of truly believing that you're loved that you can become a loving person, even of yourself.
Yeah. And I just want to say from the other side of it, from the normie side, I
Mm.
hate that word, by the way, because it's like you're not normal. But from my side, that is if there's a listener listening that has, a husband or a son or a dad or, whoever you're struggling with because they're not ready to get sober yet. The power of prayer is vital. Like I'm seeing harvest today of prayers I've prayed for you, for the kids, for people that we love and know. I mean, we're seeing harvest today.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grateful that you came on to share the story. I'm so grateful that I got to help you through it and be your support system and love you through a really, really hard time in your life. Probably the hardest time of your life.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just it is, that was part of my purpose. Like God, put us together for a reason. But some of that part of that little puzzle or, was for me to be your support system and help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you pray for God to rescue you,
Mm-hmm.
God answers prayer.
Yeah.
Now, and oftentimes we fail to see it at the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's the old adage that you pray to be rescued and you're in a flood on the top of the roof and God sends you a life raft and you're like, well, I'm waiting for God. And God sends you a boat. Oh, I'm waiting for God. God sends you a helicopter. Well, I'm waiting for God. And then, if you don't take one of the things that God's offer you, you're going to miss it altogether. And the Lord loves us so much that I'm a true believer that he sends us multiple different ways
Mm-hmm.
To be rescued.
Yeah.
But he is the source of our salvation. And whatever it was that, whether it's the rope that you grab or the boat or whatever the person or the situation, right? If you pray for him to help you,
Yeah.
he will. He never fails us.
Yeah. I think the big girl thought for today or the big boy thought for today is stick with it, right? And really lean into God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the answer.
I love you.
Love
Thanks
you
for
too.
coming on. You're the best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining this conversation. I love you. Till next time.